I remember distinctly in my ninth grade year looking at the seniors and going, wow, they're so mature. They know all these things. They've got it all figured out. They know what's what. I'm in their position now. They had no clue. And neither do I. And that's really what life is. We get older, we get wiser, we gain more experiences, and we feel like we're prepared for more, but life has this uncanny way of always throwing something at us that we're not ready for. And one thing we're always searching for in this inky void of uncertainty is something consistent. That little bit of consistency and certainty. Because we're all just trying to get the best outcome when we don't know what's coming next. And in my short time on this earth, I have tried many, many ways to find that consistency. And I was unsuccessful until a few months ago. My coach handed me a packet for a speech contest and said, Evan, I want you to try this out. I said, all right, let's do it. I opened it up and I was reading through it and I got to the four-way test and I said, this is it. This is that consistency, that certainty that I'm looking for in this dark void of life. And I've applied it everywhere now. It shines in everything. When I'm deciding where to eat with my friends, when I'm deciding where to eat by myself, when I'm divvying up work in a group project, everything I do, the four-way test can be applied to. But I think there's one area where it shines more than anything else. An area where we're so often overcome by emotion, where our better judgment is so often clouded, where we know that we should be calm and rational, but we don't know how. We don't have a framework. And that's conflict. It's something we all experience, and so often anger clouds our judgment and we make rash decisions. And the four-way test gives us something to fall back on. See, months and months ago at this point, I was at a speech and debate tournament, and I had a judge. She came into the round with false preconceived notions about the topic, and they were not in my favor. And in my particular flavor of debate, you're not supposed to give oral critiques after the round, but she chose to. I won't repeat what she said, but it was rude, inappropriate, unprofessional, and it made assumptions about the character of everyone in that room that were false and offensive to us. And I wanted to say something, and I would have had every right to. But when we look at the four-way tests, we see why I didn't. Because would it have been the truth if I had said something? Mostly. I would have said how I felt, but I wouldn't have been able to articulate it well, and it would have been exaggerated. I can't call that the full truth. Would it have been fair to everyone involved? Certainly not. We've all been in that situation where somebody lashes out, and no matter how much they're in the right, that's an incredibly uncomfortable position to watch. It's an incredibly uncomfortable position to be in. It's not fair for me to put my partner or my opponents in that position. It's not fair for me to put the judge in that position. Does it build goodwill and better friendships? Well, let me ask you this. When has acting out of anger ever built goodwill and better friendships? It simply doesn't. It could have caused friction between me and my partner. My opponents, who I ended up becoming pretty decent friends with, they might have never wanted to talk to me again, and that judge, any bridge I had with her would have been burned to the ground right there. Finally, is it beneficial all concerned? Well, nobody gets a benefit out of that. I feel a little bit better in the moment, but then at the end, I just feel guilty thinking of all the things I could have done differently to have a better outcome. My partner, my opponents, they don't benefit. They're in that awkward position. It's not fair for me to put them there. They don't get anything out of it. And that judge, she doesn't hear me. She's being yelled at by me. She's not listening. She's just trying to defend herself. She's not thinking about what I'm actually saying. It's beneficial to no one. So, me and my partner, we decided not to say anything there. We went and we told our coaches, and we went through the official channels for it. And this is the right way to go about things. Because whenever we got in there, was what we were saying the truth? Yes, because we were calm and level-headed. We didn't have the embellishment that come from the throes of passion and anger. Instead, we told an accurate, calm, level-headed account of what had happened, how it made us feel, and why we felt that way. Was it fair to all concerned? What could be more fair? It's something we do on the international stage when brokering treaties. It's something we do in the criminal justice system. We brought in a neutral arbiter, somebody who didn't know the situation, who was neutral to it, who had no opinions on it. They made sure that things were mediated, that things remained calm and graceful, and that everybody's voice was heard. What can be more fair than that? Did it build goodwill and better friendships? Certainly. Because having a calm, level-headed discussion builds understanding. It allows us to work through our differences. And those two things are the foundations for relationships. Understanding is how we come together. So is it building goodwill and better friendships? Certainly. because we actually have the opportunity to understand what each other is saying. And is it beneficial? Yes. It gives me and my partner the opportunity to air our grievances, tell the judge how we felt, and it gives her the opportunity to listen and understand why we felt that way and maybe understand why what she did was wrong. And it also gives us to hear why she said what she said, why she did what she did, and maybe understand what the situation was, sympathize with her, and maybe even learn something ourselves. And that's the most important part, is that piece of understanding. That sympathy, the ability for everybody to get their truthful words out in the discussion. That's how we make sure it's the truth. That's how we make sure it's fair. That's how we build goodwill and better friendships. And that's how we make sure everybody is benefited through a conflict. And that way we're not just burning down relationships. And really, that's what life is all about. There's always uncertainty. The older we get, the more we know, the more prepared we are. Life always throws something we're not ready for at us. And when we're grasping for a little bit of consistency and certainty in that, we can look to the four-way test. A beacon, a torch, a lantern, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is to you, it is a light in that void that shows you just a glimpse of the path forward and helps you ensure that in this darkness, you find the best outcome. Thank you.